Good afternoon. As already mentioned, my name is not James Kennedy, which is a shame because then my English would be much better. But yeah, I will try to do my best. The slides are still from James, and a bit apologies up front that I might be a bit bumpy going through the flow. But yeah, my name is Marco Schmidt. I'm manager of registration services, and I'm happy to give you some insights in the activities of the registry division. As a registry, sorry, we actually have three commitments. We want to maintain, of course, an accurate registry as much as possible. We want to provide a world-class service to our members, and we want to protect the resources that we're giving under our control and that we provide to our members and to our end users. Looking a bit deeper into those three commitments, and first registry accuracy, we have some goals there to help us to achieve this accuracy. We want to verify all our members at least every 5 years, preferably less. The same for the end users. There's an asterisk there. We talk about, when we use end users in this context, about independent resource holders, so people that have IPv4 PI, IPv6 PI, or AS numbers. And we also want to perform 2,400 ARCs per year. And to the people that don't know the term, it's assisted registry check. It's like an audit where we want to contact our members and verify that everything is in good position with them. How do we verify that registry information? We do it in a way that we verify certain data from our members and our end users against official sources. And these data are the legal name and the address, the legal address, the registration number in a Chamber of Commerce, and in case our member or end user is a natural person, then the ID, and also the status of a legal company, if they are open, active, in liquidation, or closed. And for, again, natural persons, we rely on their IDs, which we, by the way, process in a GDPR-compliant way. The member data is monitored via Dun & Bradstreet, and we get information from them if we see that, or if they see that a status of a certain company has changed. By the way, if you happen to know that your company will go through a merger, through a name change and so on, we always welcome that you inform us proactively, because then we can be ahead of time and we don't have to bother you later with some re-verification. We want to extend this activity to our end users to also monitor them more proactively, and we expect to later this year have this implemented. And how do we do this? Every time we verify a resource holder, a member, an end user, we put a timestamp on it. And currently we put them in 3 groups that we have verified them within the last 2 years, between 2 years and 5 years, and then more than 5 years. And of course, especially the last group, we want to reduce to 0. I have here some data, how this is going. So we are measuring this now since around 3 years. And if you see the members at the beginning, 3 years ago, around 1/4, 25%, the verification was more than 5 years ago. And now actually we have it this almost down to 0, and we're very busy getting it completed to 0. And that's an especially important task and a challenging task, because the verification ages, of course. Somebody who was not verified for 3 years, 2 years ago, now falls basically into the last category. But we're on a good track. You see 2/3 of our members have been recently verified within the last 2 years. For the end users, it looks quite similar. At the beginning, there was even much more end users not verified a long time ago. That was due to the fact that we had their registration papers, but they were not yet in our systems for a monitoring. And then we had some temporary colleagues that helped us to enter all this data in the system. This, you see the steep decline at the beginning, 2021, 2022. Then we still had a couple of complicated cases that especially members of my team clarified, and we are currently, just 0.5% of end users are not verified within the last 5 years. And you see there's an increase on the green part. This is mostly due to the fact that there was this big activity 2 to 3 years ago, and we are actually busy to also keep that number down, and you see already it is being reduced a bit. So how do we actually verify members and end users? We use different ways. Whenever we have a request coming in where we need to verify the resource holder anyhow, you can think about a transfer request, for end users also a resource request, it's automatically marked as verified. We also do ARCs, for example, and then we verify them manually after this is confirmed, and also a couple of other activities. Members, of course, when they become new members, when they activate the LR account, we do a verification, and also via any other methods that are available to us. And for end users, you have a similar picture, and there, of course, also if there's a sponsorship change, use this opportunity as well. Talking a bit more about ARCs, so we have the goal of 2,400 per year, and we focus mostly, especially on members that we haven't talked for a long time, that they are not verified for 5 years or almost 5 years. One aim is, of course, that we see that the information that we have from them is still accurate and up to date. And of course, we also want to use the opportunity to get in touch with them, because they might not be aware about recent policy and procedure changes. They might not know all the services that are available to them. And one recent example was the mandatory 2-factor authentication, which is not easy for everyone. So we use also ARC to support our members there. In 2023, we almost reached the target. We were short by a couple of dozen ARCs, but overall it was a very good achievement. And actually, we are currently working on some ARC automatization that hopefully will make the work for my ARC colleagues, but also for the members easier, because the most prominent part of an ARC is, of course, the phone call that we have with our member. But before doing that, there's a lot of work needed in preparing for that phone call. We are looking into what data we have on our files, what looks outdated, what needs to be double-checked. And then we send this preparation email to our member, and they have to counter-check. And we're actually positive once more automatization is in place that we'll be faster with this preparation, and we can do more ARCs and have more chances to talk to our members. Talking about service levels, Hans-Peter mentioned it already earlier in his update. We as a registry, we have a matrix there that we want to have a net promoter score of 80, a customer effort score of 6.5, and we want to respond to every incoming request within 1 working day. And I will go a bit more in detail on each of those ones. I think it is important to know that the net promoter score can be also negative. And probably all of you get occasionally these typical surveys after you made an online purchase, or if you had a flight or something, and people, those providers or those companies ask you to give feedback. And it is really useful. And I really want to ask you, if you had a request with us and you get this survey, take the 1-2 minutes and fill it in, because we take it serious and we always want to see what people like and where we can improve. And actually, every score above 0 is already good, because it means more people would recommend the RIPE-NC than to their friends and colleagues than not. So like Hans-Peter said, overall during the survey last year, the whole company reached a result of 42, I believe, which is already very good. Then scores of above 70 are in the highest percentile, and a score of 80 is actually world class. And that's what we put ourselves as a target. And I'm very happy to report that we are achieving it for the last 8 months in a row, which is a very good result, and shows that our services are appreciated, and we value this feedback. Thank you. Similar story for customer effort score. So there we asked the question, how easy made it the RIPE-NC to handle your issue? That's a score from 1 to 7, with 7 the highest. And there our target is a 6.5, which is also considered world class. And again, actually, we are doing very good. So the majority of the requesters feel that we handled the issue well. So since around 10 months, we are achieving our target of 6.5. So again, a very nice moment to be proud about it. Then the last matrix that we have is to respond to the tickets within one business day. This can be a bit conflicting with the other two goals, because a good service means that we send you, if there's a question, a clear response, a personalized response, that you know what is still needed, and that sometimes needs time. But still, considering this measurement since January last year, we handled more than 70,000 tickets, and we managed to respond within one business day to almost 98% of them. You see here some minimum or maximum. This is per different months. On some months, even we managed to respond to all tickets. Sometimes the lowest score was 87.5, which is usually related to special events. You can think about there was a Dutch bank holiday that is not celebrated much else in the world. And then the next working day, well, many requests came in and the workload is double as high. Or my colleagues from member services relating to invoices, when there's a billing reminder, they know already the next day there are coming many questions because people have some challenges to pay their invoice, to get stuck somewhere. And while we try to shift resources to those activities, sometimes it's just too much that we can respond it all on the same day. But we are on a good path, and we're actually also very happy with these results. Now, talking about the last of our commitments to protect the resources, fraud handling is also one of our important activities, because we do receive falsified documents, we do receive misleading and wrong information, intentionally wrong information, and they are a risk for the registry. And we take them serious, we follow up on them, and also it's good to point out again that there will be consequences if we identify such manipulated documentation. So it can be eventually just a warning, but ultimately it can lead to closure of a membership, it can lead to deregistration, even to blacklisting to become a member for a certain period. And we also do report cases to the police, to the Dutch police. And I have here some statistics, how many cases we have reported in the last years to the Dutch police. Registry investigations, that's something that Philippe already touched upon in his presentation from the technical perspective, so I will keep it short on this side and talk more about the registry part of it. So related to all those SSO hijacks that were out there, people try to manipulate, submit requests, and while we actually identified those trends rather fast, 2 transfer requests actually proceeded, which maybe is one of the downsides of a fast response time on tickets. But we identified them. It was 1/24, IPv4, and 2 IPv6 allocations. And we took actions. We run a deep due diligence check to identify the patterns, what exactly happened, who's behind what. We identified who is the rightful owner with whom we are talking, and we reverted all the unauthorized changes, and not only for transfers, but also other changes. But at this moment, I also want to say that we have to be carefully to what we share with the public, because we don't want to give, let's say, some indications to, well, not so nice actors what happened there. We identified the offender, and it resulted actually in the termination of this membership according to our RIPE NCC procedures. While of course we do everything that we can protect your resources, our resources, I think it's also a good moment to remind you that that you also can do your part. Just make sure that your credentials are always protected, that you use strong passwords. Also, keep your LAR contacts up to date, maintain them. It has happened in the past that a disgruntled ex-employee tried to make something nasty to their previous employer. So it's good to be alerted on that. And whenever you would see something suspicious, let us know immediately. We have a process in place that we immediately can flag a certain account, certain resources as vulnerable, and this will prevent that anything happens to these resources until the situation is clarified. And I included, or James actually included here, the link to the investigations report that we have published on it, and this is the information that we can share on those incidents with the public. The topic of external auditing came up already. Hans-Peter mentioned it, and just to give a bit more detail on the most recent one, there was an audit completed by Ernst & Young on the registry on the integrity of transfers. And actually, I'm very happy and proud to report that there were no major vulnerabilities found. There were a couple of recommendations that we are following up. It's mostly to put certain things, formalize them more, have a better documentation, where possible automatization, and we have added all those recommendations to our registry optimization plan, and we already have implemented some of them and are busy to act upon all those recommendations. Some other registry insights, the sanction compliance, the topic came up a couple of times already in previous presentations, so I will keep it short. We screen all our resource holders, members, and end users for EU sanction and also OFAC sanctions. And on the OFAC sanction, it's important to clarify this is related, OFAC sanctions only related to the invoicing, to the financial part, because our banks are very concerned about OFAC requirements. All resource holders are screened, and as soon we identify a potential hit, the resources are frozen and we investigate if there's an actual sanction that applies to us, because there are many different sanctions out there and not all are really relevant to us. And once it is confirmed that a member or an end user is on the sanction list, we freeze their account, we freeze their resources, and they cannot request new resources from us anymore. All this actually costs quite some work. We get every month around 1,300 alerts from our automatic monitoring. A lot of them are false positives, but still we have to look at them and exclude those false positives and see if there's any real match. This has to do that we are not only directly monitoring our members, but also who is the major shareholder, who is the owner, who is the managing director. And there are sometimes matches of names on the sanction list, and we have to exclude them. And we publish this in a quarterly sanction report, and the last one has just published, I think, in February. As I'm also at the end of the time, I just want to quickly use the opportunity to refer to some interesting Web Labs articles. One was published by James last week, and it's very interesting. I think it's a very interesting article to see the trends and observations on the workload and on the what we see in our area. Another Web Labs article on IPv6 stockpiling was published by somebody, and it was intensively discussed this morning in the Adverse Policy Working Group. So if you're interested in that one, you can read it there. And actually, I want to also here pose a question. Whenever you would like to get more insights on something and would like to have, why you can make a Web Labs article about something, let us know, and we are happy to do that. I'm almost at the end of my time, but I think also I'm at my last slide. So I'm actually really glad to say that our registry accuracy and integrity is very good, and we still look how we can keep that level for sure and even improve. The same applies to the world-class service that we provide. And we have proven to be robust and effective in our diligence framework against potential attacks. And I believe this is a good moment to thank the whole registry team for their hard work. And I think that deserves a round of applause because you see the picture up there, and the chances are high. If you had a request recently, one of those colleagues handled them with pleasure. And and this is the end of my presentation.
Thank you, Marco. I know we have one question online. Do we have any? Let's go first online.
Yeah, this is from Robert Jack of ETES GmbH. On the members' mailing list, it was recently mentioned that identity is used or is now involved for the verification of members or end users being natural persons. Could you comment why this happens using an external company, please? Sending an ID card, passport copy scanned to the right NCC is one thing, sending it to somewhere another. It's unclear where identity is legally and physically located.
Well, the reason is indeed GDPR, because having those IDs and so on in our records is not GDPR compliant. So we were looking for a solution that is according to European requirements. And this third party does this, and they are based in the European Union. They apply with GDPR, and we don't see those passwords anymore, and nothing can happen to those IDs.
I think Peter was up first.
Nico Brosantoni with Funkvergrad. Wanted to ask, you mentioned that there's now a last checked metadata for members and end users object. Are those visible in WUIs or such? Because as a network operator, I would actually be interested in saying, okay, can RIPE actually checks that our records are up to date when it comes to organizational data? And if not, how can I help RIPE keep those up to date?
Some of the data is in the RIPE database, in particular the legal company name and the legal address, and that's also something that cannot be changed without informing us. Other information like the company registration number is not in the RIPE database. That's in our internal records.
Yes.
But, yeah.
Okay, but there's no way I can check whether RIPE can currently easily check that our records are up to date.
No, the best way is probably to reach out to us, especially if you happen to know something has changed or might have changed, and we might have outdated data, and we actually welcome this to let us know as soon as possible.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks.
Sander.
Hello, Sander Stefan speaking for myself. Basically, re-requesting what was asked during address policy, where you said like the policy allows more strict checks than the NCC was currently doing. So please, yeah, do what you said during address policy, because I think it's good to put a bit more attention to that. The other one that I was thinking about was the one where you said that people were selling AS numbers online for a one-off fee, which is not compliant with what the requirements are for keeping in touch with their customer, where you said they were selling them without asking about multi-homing or stuff like that, but the requests you get all perfectly comply with the policy. So where does this data come from? And yeah, I'm a bit worried that about organizations becoming like a commercial RAR, where they get research from the NCC and then start reselling them, and we lose track of it. So as part of NCC services, I would like to ask you to pay some extra attention there, because I think this affects the stability of the system. I know you have the tools to do it, but yeah, please put a bit of extra focus there.
Thank you. We definitely will do that. Yes.
Thank you, Sander. Are there any other comments? I was also pleased to see, the ARCs going ahead and increasing. That was one of the requests from the database task force. So it's always good to hear that. If there's nothing else, then Marco, thank you.
Thank you.